continuation on the course PCR271, and today we'll be talking about what it means by conflict and what it means by war. We will dissecting this into this class. With this being said, let's get straight into it. In the comment section, I have good evening, Mr. Gina. It's great to have you. So let's just go straight into it. Now, we have conflict and war, but just before that, I need us to take note of this PCR271. I need us to take note of this abbreviation. Okay, I need us to take note of this abbreviation. So it's DPT. All right, DPT. It's actually a model, and DPT here means diagnosis, process, and therapy. All right, we have diagnosis. All right, we have progress and therapy. Progress, and we have therapy. Okay, so it's actually a model. What is this model all about? It's a model used in resolving conflicts, and the diagnosis means when you investigate the history of sickness. All right, then the progress establish the presence of state of success and where it could be in future. So we have then therapy. All right, so we have that as that. So now we talk about the conflict and war. According to the thumbnail, we have conflict and war. Now, the ideal situation, all right, is for people. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so we have the ideal situation is for people, nations, or states to be at peace with one another. Speaking of conflict, speaking of war, none of these are okay. Whether it's conflict, whether it is war, none of these are okay. So what are we saying here in essence? The ideal situation is for people, nations, or states to be in peace with each other. But it's quite unfortunate that since the inception of the 19th century to date, the whole world has been turned into what we call battlefield. All right, a battlefield with groups, nations, or states rising against one another. Okay, stemming from disagreements over issues, values, or beliefs, or competition over scarce or limited resources. That is quite unfortunate. All right, however, series of non-violent conflicts, okay, later degenerated into what we call the violent one, like what we talked about in our phases, all right, of conflict. Non-violent conflicts, or non-violent conflicts that has not been properly attended to or handled, then became degenerated into very violent, all right, very violent situations due to ineffective regulation. All right, non-violence, okay, non-violence conflicts then degenerate okay, into violent ones because of what? Because of ineffective, all right, because of ineffective what? Because of ineffective regulatory or conflict management mechanism. All right, ineffective regulatory / conflict management mechanism. Okay, now we have that as that. Now, war is not only more prevalent between 19th century, as we made mention just before now, and in the 20th century than in earlier centuries. Okay, it has been. When you talk about war, it has been. It's not a thing of 19th century or 20th century. It has been for millions, for millenniums, for decades. It has been. It has existed. All right. It is more violent and destructive, and has continued to drain the energy and manpower resources of countries or states and emasculated governance. Okay, so we have that as that. So let's talk about what war means in essence. Now, when we say war, like any other social phenomenon, has various definitions. Okay, war, like any other social phenomenon, has various definitions, which often marked by particular political or philosophical stance. All right. Now let's take a look at the definition of war from different sources. All right. The definition of war from different sources. Okay. The definition of war from different sources. Now we have the Black Law Dictionary. Okay. The Black Law Dictionary. Black Law Dictionary. The Black Law Dictionary talks about war. It says war is seen as a hostile contention by means of armed forces. Okay, hostile contention. Okay, seen as a means of hostile contention by means of armed forces. By means of armed forces. Hostile contention by means of armed forces carried on between nations, states, or rulers, or between citizens in the same nations. Now look at the key point here. The key point here is that according to the Black Law Dictionary, it says war is an hostile contention. All right, when we say hostile, agitation. All right, agitation, hostile contention. All right, confrontation by means of armed forces carried on by nations or by states. Okay, carried on by nations or by what we call states, between citizens in the same nations as well. Okay, according to the Black Law Dictionary. Now we also have by Webster Dictionary. It is a state of open declared hostile. All right, by Webster. That's by Webster Dictionary. Okay, by Webster Dictionary, it is said to be a state of open war. By Webster Dictionary, it said a state, all right, state of open, all right, it is said to be a state of open and declared hostile. Open and declared hostile. A state of open and declared hostile armed conflict. Now you keep hearing the word armed. All right, this is war. All right, armed. War is usually armed. It's not just any kind of conflict, but it is a armed conflict you experience in war. All right, armed conflict between war states or nations, or a period of such conflict. All right, now look at it. It says here, a state of open and declared hostile. It is obvious, it is known that this is going on. All right, and it is characterized by what we call armed conflict. Okay, armed conflict in the sense that both parties are using arms. Okay, machine guns, what have you, bombs. All right, but this conflict is actually armed. All right, and it happens between states or even within a state or nation, between states or nations. Okay, between states or nations, and it happens for a period of such conflict. So we have between states, slash nations for a period, all right, for a period of that conflict. So we have that as that. Now, war is what? Constituted by a relation between things and not by purpose, all right, and not by persons, I mean to say. So war then is a relation not between men, not between man and man, but between state and state, all right. So now when it comes to war, an individual cannot fight a war. What I want to tell us here that it's not between a person and a person or a man against another man. Okay, it is a thing of a nation between against or a state against another state. And that's why the analogy here it says that law is constituted by a relation between things, all right, and not by persons. Okay, it might be the war might be ignited by just an individual, but it has escalated, all right, to the level whereby the state or the nation is involved and it is against another nation or another state or within a particular nation between states. So we have that as that. Now, also Cicero said something about what we're talking about. Cicero says that war is defined as a contention by force. Okay, a contention by force, according to Cicero. And also Hugo also made his contribution. Hugo says war is a state of contending parties considered as such. All right. Thomas also said that war is also an attitude. Thomas sees war as an attitude. Okay, and we have definitions here and there by different scholars. So we have that as that. Now he said here that war and state of hostility. Okay, war and state of hostility. Now let's quickly take something on that. It says it is imperative to clarify that states may be involved in hostilities, okay, hostilities involving armed conflict or conflict, and not be in war. Did we get that? It says that states may be involved in hostilities and not just any hostilities, okay, hostilities that is involved with armed confrontation, and still they are not yet in war. Now, hostility therefore vary in nature, which can range from what we call minor or small confrontation to extensive military actions or operations. And yet, state of war is said to have not been brought about. Now, let's take a look at this. Now, what brings about the termination of diplomatic relationship? Okay, if states are still in hostility, they can still, all right, diplomats can still be involved and see how the situation can be handled. Negotiations can be made, both parties trying to settle things amicably. We can still use diplomats when it comes to hostility, even with confrontations with arms. All right, but when it comes to the case of war, all right, it says that what brings about the termination of diplomatic relationships, all right, and recognition of some treaties. Now, when we say war now, because we are trying to differentiate between war and hostility, that nations can be in hostilities even with confrontations and arms, and they are still not in war. All right, now speaking of war, two things are terminated. We have diplomatic relationships is being terminated, and what we also call treaties. Okay, treaties are also terminated. Now, whereas conflicts, when we talk about conflicts and hostility, now conflict / hostility does does not conflict or hostility does not terminate any of these two. All right. So we have that as that. So the class might not really be a long one tonight because the timing has just affected each other and it really affected a lot of things. But we just have to see how we can manage. So let's take down some of the causes of war. Okay, let's just take some point down very quickly on that. It's been so challenging to have classes these days, but we just have to make something work. All right, we just have to make something work. We can't. We've come a long way to just stop. Just have to make something work. So now, speaking of the causes of war, we have some of the causes of war. But we are working on how to make sure everything, all right, comes timely and on a very easy and smooth pace. All right, so we have that as that. Now, the ideological reasons. Let's consider the ideological reasons behind war. Okay. Now, the Cold War era was marked. Drawing example or reference, making reference to the Cold War era. Speaking of the ideological, all right. Speaking of ideological reasons, all right. Let's make reference to the Cold War era. All right, Cold War era. During the Cold War era, all right, this was marked by what we call antagonistic ideological, strategic, and military rivalry. Antagonistic, okay, antagonistic, all right, we have rivalry, all right, antagonistic, we have rivalry, and what we call, all right, antagonistic rivalry, and a lot of strategy just to ensure that some people or some group or some state do not position themselves as greater or better. Okay, so basically it was a result of rivalry, military rivalry, antagonistic behavior that led to some certain war during this era. All right, so I want to take down this abbreviation which we have as the USSR. Okay, the USSR. Now, the USSR is said to be, or it's an abbreviation for the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. All right, Union of Soviet Socialist, all right, Republic. All right, the Union of Soviets. All right, that is Soviet Socialist, all right, Republic. That's the USSR. So we also have we have religious, all right, religious factors as well, all right, and this is one thing that can easily ignite war, all right, when it comes to religion. Okay, we have that as that. We also have ethnic reasons, ethnic war between ethnic groups. All right, ethnic reasons. Okay, all right, we have ethnic, that should be NI. All right, ethnic reasons. All right, just like Thomas says, that ethnic group is said to be a community of people who have conviction that they have a common faith based on issue, ethnicity, right? Common people, according to Thomas, people who who are convinced, have this conviction that they have a common faith based on issues of origin, kinship, traditions, and the likes. All right. So we have, if unfortunately if there's a disagreement between this group, can also lead to war if not properly handled. So, like I said, this class tonight might not really be a long one, but I'm optimistic that with just two more classes on this course, we should be done and we can move to the next class. If we have covered everything, then we start giving out the keynote. So please and please, if you are not yet a member of the class, you are missing out a lot. All right, in the private class, Miss Regina, I apologize. This is just 20 minutes. Yes, I know. All this will cover up. You have nothing to miss, ma. All right. The keynotes, we are working on them, and it's a lot of work. We said we are also making available TMA solution questions. It's a lot of work. Believe me, it's a lot of work involved when it comes to providing these values. And the bottom line is when all these values are available, we are better positioned, all right, in attempting our exams. So if we reduce the time for the class sometime is because we have a better project we are investing time into, just to at the end of it all cumulatively, right, see that the progress is worth it. All right, so that is it. So in our next class we'll talk about the heroes of war. All right, the heroes of war, and we'll look at some theories of war. So thank you very much, everyone. Please do well to reach out to me on www.com if you need any assistance, all right, with TMA or what have you, or you need the TMA solutions for your exam preparations and studies, and as well the key points, the exam keynotes. We'll be very happy to assist. I look forward to seeing all the subsequent tutorials. Do have a wonderful evening. Good night.